Freaky fun for everyone. Sold
Leonardo, the katana blade. My cat.
Attack the evil Inhumanoid, forcing him back into the earth.
Hey, the name's Boglins. You sold separately.
We battle our human and skeletal each soul separately. You put them out together.
Turn them into the light, and they change into even more powerful.
Battle against Lion-O and the new Thundercat ally.
Here we go. Take number 2. It is the Waffle Mafia podcast. Fool, what's going on? James Manning, appreciate you jumping in. Samantha McKee, Samisha Mack. What's going on, Bros Vic? Baby, we are back. So, apologize for the issues there, guys. I don't know exactly what's going on. Wi-Fi's being weird. Facebook's being weird. You know, one of them. Whatever it may be. But, for all those who are joining us again, welcome back. This is the Waffle Mafia podcast. This is number 22. So I am here to share a little bit of Motu love with you. Shout out earlier, give that to Mr. Stevie Magnus for Mags. And for those who are listening at a later time, holding up this beautiful Waffle Mafia mug of mine. Full of beer all the way to the top. Eternian lagers, baby. We don't stop. Let's have a pause for the cause and welcome back in. It's round 2. If anybody knows deuces, it's Dano, dude. So, big shout out to Dan Rice, member of Lucky Legends, OG, hashtag shirtless for Dano. Been with us for quite some time, day one, if you will. Dano, you my boy and you're for real. Big shout out to you, buddy. Had twins this week, so shout out to Liam and Cole, who are hanging out with Kimberly, their mother, and got all the other boys hanging around and watching over them babies. So big congrats to you, Dano. We love you, brother. Pause for the cause. And I believe I just saw Uncle Jakey B, and here we go and there we go, and that's what it be. So, guys, I've been having a lager or two this evening. Now, that didn't necessarily give us our technical issues, I don't think. I think that one was on Facebook. But either way, we're here to talk a little bit of Mer-Man. Going to talk about the Squiddish one. For anybody who's joining us that maybe is new to the podcast, hasn't come by, this is your first time. This is the Waffle Mafia podcast. This is your weekly Waffle Wrap-Up. This is everything Mafia related, everything that's going on with the Waffle Mafia, any kind of new thing that we got going on, what kind of promotions, crazy things we're doing for the week. Typically, any character that we talk about through the Waffle Mafia podcast, that will be the figure that is done for Thirsty Thursday. So Thirsty Thursday, that's tomorrow night. Okay, guys, what's Thirsty Thursday, all right? So that is a little gathering that we have, a little get-together, if you will. Shout out there, Kelshaw. What's happening, my friend? It's a little get together. We do some things. We have a little waffle or two, and you should join us and hop in on the fun too. So anybody who's listening right now and you're doing this with me live, you know that you're a member of Legends, or you wouldn't be seeing it, and that's what it be. So we'll shout out to the Waffle Mafia. You see, anybody that joins the Waffle pages, you're a part of the Mafia, bro. So let's tell you the other pages and where you can go. Lord of Destruction Waffles, the God Waffler, Mr. David Carbulka, who got this whole ball on a roll. That's where he does his thing. That's where he does his show. It's the Mega, and it's all about greed. So if that's your thing, then check him out indeed. So, secondly, we've got the most powerful waffles, and that belongs to Mr. Johnny Miz. He's my brother from another mother over at the Masters of the Galaxy, the Great Unboxing, most powerful waffles. Me and Johnny do some things. So Johnny also does waffles over at his place. And so go check him out if you're listening at a later time. You've never seen any of these sites, never been a part of any of these groups. Go check them out. It's great fun, great people. Of course, here, Lucky Legends, home of the Waffle Mafia. It's where we hang out and do what we do. And then we've got La Will down in Puerto Rico, too. So our little brother from another mother down there, Joito Josue, sending much love down your way. What's up? Listening from Subway, people ain't pleased. Well, Backman, you know what you can do, and you can tell them where it be. So we'll have a pause for the cause for the Subway folks. We should turn it up loud. I hope you guys are enjoying this podcast now. Waking up the baby, about to get in trouble. Damn it, Johnson. No more loggers for you. Mommy will come in here and bust my head a time or two. What's up, Michael Black? What's going on, my friend? The Mafia is worldwide, man. We're spread all over the place. And that's the thing about Masters. You know, everybody gets a taste. There's something for everybody. And it's why we love this property so much. You know, I really have never heard of anybody getting into Masters or learning about Masters and not finding something within the mythos that they thought was cool, or something that they connected with or really felt like they can understand. So it would be odd for me to find somebody who could argue that. I think that there's not something that they like that's cool about different aspects of Masters of the Universe. So with that, this is the property that we love. What are you reading there, Aaron? Well, right now I'm kind of in the compendium. And this is one of the things that when I talk to you guys, and I talk to you all about different little trivial facts, or things about the character that you wouldn't normally, know about. A lot of those facts, guys, if you guys don't have this compendium, definitely need to pick it up. It's absolutely beautiful. We've waffled one of these off before, sent one of these out. The God Waffler has as well. He's good about sending those books out sometimes as what we like to call pity prizes. But beautiful artwork on the outside of the compendium. This Compendium on World Guide. A lot of really interesting information in that book if you guys have never seen that. That's by Dark Horse. If you guys are looking for it, probably best place to get it, honestly, Amazon. $20. My local comic store, my dude's cool, had it for $15. I thought that was a killer price. Picked one up. Been digging through it ever since, man. It's probably one of the greatest pieces or collections of Masters knowledge, just building all that and putting all that into one book. So that's very cool. What's up, Magnus? Mag's got those books. They are awesome. We do have the best pity prizes, man. The pity prizes ain't bad. I mean, they really ain't. I went back and I was looking over the past year of, well, not year, I guess year and a half, because we've been doing this now. We're into January, guys. We roll back around to July. That's 6 more months. We've been doing this 2 years, and that is insane. July 31st was the first waffle that ever went down in Lucky Legends. Absolutely insane that we are on the 2-year mark. Of course, we're gonna get through WaffleCon prior to that, and that'll be a big event for us. But I was thinking back, over the past year and a half, and thinking, man, we have really given away a lot of cool Master stuff, and these collections have just grown and grown and grown. So it's really cool to see your guys' pictures and see when something goes out and y'all add it to your collections and how your collections are growing. So I appreciate you all always sharing the love on the page and sharing those things and showing off what you got, man. That's just awesome. It's not a contest in Legends. We don't do that. Everybody just, cool that you got it, man. Happy for you, because I wish I had it, but it's cool. I appreciate y'all having it. So, and sharing it with everybody, man. We share the love. But with that said, let's put a little more lager in my head, and then we will get underway. I want to talk about a few things we did this past week, and then also sort of our weekly Waffle wrap-up that we do each week, rundown of what we did in the Waffle Mafia this past week, and then, of course, move on to the character discussion, and we're going to talk about the Squiddish one himself, Squiddish Rex, Mer-Man. Whichever incarnation of Mer-Man is the one that you love. We're going to talk about each one and maybe some things we like or don't like about those particular figures. And you guys can weigh in the comments and we'll talk about it. So, we'll pause for the calls. I'm going to do my absolute best not to run in an hour tonight. I mean, I really did, you know, you got to go till the beers are gone, because Dano said, I mean, dude, it's stuck. I mean, I've been using it ever since. Like, I'm not even doing podcasts and I'm using that. You know, Dano's having babies, so I got to drink beer because Dano said. So I appreciate that, Dan. That's pretty awesome, too. What's going on, Cameron? What's happening? It's going around everywhere. Thanks, Sammy. Oh, yeah, everybody been sick, man. You know, so please don't be coughing around and none of that jazz. Wash your Eternian hands, please. Rinse the top of your loggers, guys. I don't know, you know, rinse your loggers. They could have been sitting somewhere in the Mystic Mountains, somewhere high atop a cave. Could have been sitting there clean before King Grayskull come around, and you know, you take a little trial and magic to get down in there and get all that out. So please be safe and brush it on out. So I wasn't drinking out of that. I was drinking out of this. Okay, here we go. Let's get busy and get back to the show. Another shout out I want to give before we get going. I got to do this too, because there really is nothing better than it, guys. I receive packages sometimes from Wily Cat, and sometimes Adam Wiles, member of Lucky Legends, member of the Waffle Mafia, member of all the groups, leader promoter eBay.com, lead promoter for eBay.com. I will give him that. I wouldn't say leader promoter, but lead promoter for eBay.com. And if you don't know what that is, ask your mom. It's he-bay.com. And, of course, that's run by Johnny Miz. But I get these packages sometimes from Wiley, and it's always great because you never know. So today I opened it up, got a hashtag Sweet Baby Mer-Man, yo. So there's a Sweet Baby Mer-Man. But, guys, that was not all. Wiley outdid himself this time, y'all. Now, we want to keep the podcast as PG as can be because it plays on later. We do it in podcast or on Podbean. It's later done on YouTube. So we want to be as friendly as we can. We know that we do have some kids that listen. So, muff it, and here we go. It's hashtag titty nipples, yo. So, Wily Cat's outdone himself. It's hashtag titty nipples. And here's what it be. It ain't nothing nasty. It's just Geldor, you see. He likes to show off what he's working with. It's old hashtag titty nipples. Oh, Wily. Oh, good Lord. I opened this package and I really just about died. And what else was hiding inside but another sticker that is hashtag 10%. No, this is where all my battery went. So, you know, thought about that, sticking that on the back of the ride, hashtag 10% inside. There you go, man. So that's pretty cool too. But, you know, that's not all. He got busy with another hashtag titty nipples, y'all. So there is old Geldor again. Guys, I cannot even tell you when I opened this package, my friends. My goodness. Got his little Miller Lite. We're going to get hammered and give out some stickers one night. Could be tomorrow, Thirsty Thursday. You know what it be. It's hashtag titty nipples, you see. Okay, guys, I got to get this podcast going. I apologize. Gosh, we just have too much fun. But my dude, that was awesome. I appreciate that. And here we go. Let's get on to a little discussion, yo. So, this past week, some folks ought to start getting packages from me today. They really should have started raining in by now. I don't know. But there should be just packages everywhere being delivered. All kinds of stuff went out. This past week, though, we had a big week. So we had a lot going on. Thirsty Thursday, of course, we did Zodak. That was our discussion last week. We talked about Zodak with a C, the Cosmic Enforcer. That's who he be. And then on Thirsty Thursday, we give away Zodak. Gave away a vintage Zodak, a Super 7, the 3.5 reaction figures. Did a Point Dread record. Ditto Crotch Rot Skelly, an Ular. Of course, that's Classics Ular. Did a Boobies Sea Witch, and also a Skeletor Pop. We then followed it up on Syrupy Saturday. It was the Roton Ho. So we did in the box, did the Roton with the Skelcon, Minton box. Mr. Espinoza walks away with it. Carlos Espinoza got the win on the Roton. Sir, your Roton is on the way. It did not go out as early as everybody else's stuff, so yours will be with a bit of a delay. But we've got Kimberly. Oh, that winged girl. She swooped in and stole my heart. It was Vina Grayskull. But you can't tell them apart, her and Kimberly. But Kimberly went out to the Dutchie. So, Mr. Dutch, you got a bird on the way. And did some constructs and sent those over to Samisha Mack. Another Skelly constructs over to Mr. Gonzalez. Battle Armor He-Man Pop out to Mr. Beers. Battle Armor Vintage, Mr. Black, Orko Pop to Ruth Gilbert, and He-Man DC number 3 Mer-Man comic has not gone yet, but that's going to Kisa. So, all kinds of stuff, guys, that went out this week. You should see the shipping bill. It was ungodly, but it was fun. I mean, I literally had 7 or 8 people behind me cussing me out. But there was not much I could do about it. I let 3 people go around me. She kept pausing it, and then we get going again. It was like pause for the cause, and then I'd step aside, and then pause for the cause, and then, but there wasn't no beers inside, so I was just having to stand there and wait. But anyway, I did my fair share of waiting too. So don't think I was just being a pecker, you know. I made it do what it do. So anyway, all kinds of people waiting. I had 33 packages on that receipt. So 33 packages went out, and you know, it was fun. It was a lot of fun. I made 4 trips to the car to carry them in. That's what we do, man. It's Lucky Legends, and it's the Waffle Mafia, dude. We try to have fun and have a good time, drink a couple beers, and do a little rhymes. So if you guys can't tell by Daddy's cheeks, we're all up in it. Let's finish this beer, and then we'll spin it. Oh, no, Lord, I wish we were. Ruth Gilbert's box came today. Very cool. Unboxing on Friday. What's up, Grim? What's going on, man? I haven't seen Dagon in a minute. What's happening, my dude? Martinez Damien, what's happening? A little late. What's up, guys and gals? Spy with my little eye, little beast man, pop up in the sky. He's up there. Mr. Espinoza, you're the man. What's going on, buddy? You should have got a package from me today, I think, also. Or maybe tomorrow. I don't know. Because I think you had some other Waffle wins. Went out and bought myself a vintage Zodak. Thanks to that last podcast. Davila, he's awesome, man. I mean, the Zodak podcast I really enjoyed. I went back and actually, it's one of the first ones that I've listened to, and I got to read your all's comments while it was happening, so it was a lot more fun because it's kind of hard to keep up with it and talk to you guys at the same time. But so surprised that you aren't being watched by the ATF. Dude, I guarantee you I'm on a list somewhere. I promise you that. You know, around here, and I know we got some country guys in the group. I know we got some guys that like to live a little rugged out there, but around here we like to shoot some guns and drink some beer, and so you know, everybody around here is on some sort of list. Apologize, man. Oh, trolling magic, it'll get you every time. But let's see here, at work this time for Mr. Dagon, President Attorney. I appreciate that, man. I like being President Attorney. Wish we could all be there. But let's go there tonight. Let's talk about Squiddish Rex. All right. So I always like to write down some notes. I really rather like to talk to you guys about it, and let's sort of go through it as we discuss the figure, look at the figure, that kind of thing. It's a lot more fun to me to do it that way. But I do like to have some notes in front of me, so if you guys see me reading or I get drifting off kind of weird, just steer me back in. Let's have a pause for the cause, and then we'll hit it there, friend. Oh, man, Lord. Hell yeah. Place called Bloody Harlan. That's right. Well, I mean, that's what it be. You're just right over the mountain from me. So, Dano, buddy, they ain't got enough paper for your name, son. You're on every list. But that's awesome, man. I mean, it's who wants to die infamous? No, man. Well, infamous, that's all right. I think. I don't know, guys. You have to steer me on that one. I know Masters. That's really all I know. But let's talk about it. It's Mer-Man, yo. 1982 Ocean Warlord. So, interestingly, and we're going to use the classics. Now, this is the guy we'll be waffling off tomorrow night. So, we'll use the classics version for reference. Now, there's going to be quite a few things that are different here. So, as far as design goes, we will use him at first to discuss a few things. We got a couple of other figures that we could use to talk about it as well. One that I know Dano, that's very close to his heart. So, let's see. What else do we have to start out with? The aquatic half-man, half-fish. Okay, so starting out with Mer-Man. As he was introduced, Mer-Man being the name that they chose, he started out a little different, had a different name that they had. What do you think his sword is from? We will talk about that. Rather be infamous than famous any day. That'd be, there we go. So thank you, Jake. Jakey B's going to keep me straight there, man. Win that Mer-Man and start my collection all over again. I hear you, Dougie Fresh. That is something very cool, and I'm glad that you said that, dude, because, you know, there's never a bad time, I feel like, to get into this line. To be honest, you know, I've had a larger collection. It's went down. I've built it back up. It's went back down. So I really don't think that there's ever a bad time to get into this line. Price-wise, it's a little tough to come in on the back end of the deal, but, you know, there's still places where you can get pretty good deals, and Lucky Legends definitely a place for that. I mean, I think everybody tries to hook each other up. Most of the Waffle Mafia, within all the groups, I think everybody tries to hook each other up. So, very cool of you, Mr. Fresh, to do your collection and kind of share that when needed, and sold your collection and sold bits and parts of your collection, and then turn around and start rebuilding it again. And build it in different ways. Get different figures at different times, and group them differently, and, you know, go after the Horde members this time, or be like Stevie Maggs and get into NA, and, you know, put all of that underway. Just start rolling your wheels on that too. So, you know, do what it do. Jakey B threw it out there. That's who he be. It's old Sea-Man, you see. So when he started out, the aquatic one himself, the Ocean Warlord, was going to swim onto your shelf with the name Sea-Man. And luckily, the Mattel guys thought that it might not be good if this guy's name was Seaman in your neighborhood. So going out to kids, that probably wasn't the best. But they changed him up and they changed his dress. So we're going to talk about Mer-Man. Mer-Man probably, honestly, guys, of all the figures in the line, and there are a couple that have this problem, but as far as the biggest one of the whole line, Mer-Man has the largest inconsistency in how he's portrayed throughout all of our different media. So, you know, Mer-Man is portrayed in a lot of different ways. He's done by 2000X, he's done in Filmation, he's done in the UK books, he's done in the German audiobooks, he's done in the early mini comics, he was done Alcala, he was done, so all these different styles of Mer-Man, in the way that he's been drawn or the way that he's been conceptualized, he has probably undergone the most inconsistent showing of anybody in the entire universe. So he's a very interesting figure just in that fact. But just going from prototype to concept art to his final design, that's probably the biggest thing. There have been some salty parents, Steven. Oh, that's too funny. You guys are wearing it out. So what we will see with Mer-Man, and of course the way that he started out versus what we ended up with in the end, they are pretty different, my friends. So what you started with Mer-Man was what Mark Taylor had when he did the B sheets. So a lot of these awesome drawings, the awesome artwork of the figures, that came from the B sheets that Mark Taylor conceptualized the figures, and he drew how they would look. Very interesting documentary, now that we're on that topic, very interesting documentary on Netflix. I know most of you guys have probably seen it, but if you haven't, The Toys That Made Us, it's broke down into a couple of different sections, and of course it has it covers Barbie, it covers G.I. Joe, it covers, whatever. I think G.I. Joe was one of them. But I know Star Wars was in there. But He-Man, so it covers He-Man, Masters of the Universe, and just discusses the property. And they do some interviews with Mark Taylor and some of the other guys. Roger Sweet. Roger Sweet is freaking hilarious in that. Just his nature, his demeanor while he talks about things is amazing. So if you guys have not seen that, please check that out. It's very cool. There are some things about it I didn't like. There are some things, there are some moments where there's some goofiness added to it that I just really didn't need. Because really, when you first get into it and they're kind of diving in, it's really great information. So, but there's a lot of takes with Mark Taylor, and Mark Taylor's talking about how he created the concept art for these characters and created the B sheets and drew these early figures. And so Mer-Man being a part of the original 8-back crew, the first wave of release in '82, him being a part of that line, those were all drawn by Mark Taylor, and each had a very unique design in how they were done. So Mer-Man probably being one of the most interesting ones, because Mark Taylor wanted to do an aquatic guy. He wanted a half man, half fish. He wanted to cover the water realm. He wanted to have somebody who could lord and rule over the water realm. So when you thought about these kind of figures for kids, you had guys who were the champions of the land, and you had guys who were champions of the air, and then of course you had to have a champion of the sea. So Mark Taylor drew Mer-Man, and he looks very different in the B sheets than the actual final product that we got. So especially when we go from the B sheets to the actual toy. So how does that happen? How do we get from Mark Taylor's drawing to the toy that we actually got? There's a couple of steps in between. So because of that, you got to look at who did which piece and who did what. So Mark Taylor, on that documentary, he kind of lets you know a lot what pieces he did and what he took care of, which is very cool. Like the dude, he's interesting to say the least. But Mer-Man, going from the prototype to the toy, what a beast. Because the way that Mark Taylor drew him, it was very fish-like. It was very aquatic. It looked very... I don't know how to describe it the best, really. It looked organic. It looked very, he had these fins, and he had these things that looked like sort of splashes and seaweed kind of hanging off, or things that you would see like Neptune, and it looked very cool. And so the original design for Mer-Man, very different, again, from what we ended up with the vintage toy. His original cardback artwork actually featured him as blue. So as you guys know, there is a green version of Mer-Man that we have in Classics, and then there is also the blue version. So if you guys are wondering where did the blue version come from, he actually was originally blue. So Mer-Man, in the early drawing done by Mark Taylor, or in the early, there is some of the early cardback artwork, they featured him as blue in his cross-sell artwork. So that's very cool to give that nod, and that Classics gave that nod when they remade this figure, because not only did we get a lot of the touches of the vintage figure or how the concept art was drawn. This is actually very true to the concept art. Not only did we get that, we also got a nod to the origin of the character where he was blue. And a lot of folks will relate that to Alcala style. That is Alcala style. Alcaladrum is blue in a couple of spots. So very cool that he's portrayed in that way. He's part of the DC 2-pack. And but anyway, so we got this Classics version, the green version, and then we also have the blue version. And so we'll talk about a little bit about that as well. What's going on, Mr. Edeus? I always say Edeus. John Itis, what's happening? We got D'Lo Underwood. What's happening, my friend? Dano taking Mer-Man in the tub with Beastman. Taylor did draw them awesomely. Oh, yes. You know what it be. There's a little pause for the cause, you see. Okay, so while later on it changed and ultimately it ended up being green like the toy that we got, there are a few noticeable changes in the color scheme. The boots and the gloves when we got the actual toy version, and I'll have to show you, I blew my mind, guys. Couldn't believe I didn't even have a Mer-Man around here. And I now have no idea where, Dano's fella's at, old Sneaky Pants himself. Let's grab him. And here we go. Of course, as most of you know, I would say all of you, Stinkor is Mer-Man. So we can look at him for reference. Why so blue Mer-Man? So why so blue Mer-Mans? Well, the blue Mer-Man was actually blue, was the color of the original artwork. So strangely, he was drawn as blue by Mark Taylor, and then later on they ended up changing his color to green. I don't know, to make it more oceany or more fish-like. I don't really know, but I thought that was interesting information anyway. So Stinkor, as most of you guys know, is Mer-Man. It's just a cool repaint on Mer-Man. If nobody has ever seen that, and this is the first time you're hearing that, blew my mind too. But so very cool, just repaint. But what we see with the Mer-Man that we got in the vintage toy was very different than what the actual early artwork was. So the early artwork by Mark Taylor, like I said, looks very organic. He looks very fishy. He's got these kind of squiddly looking things down him, and that's pretty cool. He's got the little things coming up off his clawed feet. And honestly don't know why they made such a drastic change to what we ended up getting, but the cross-sell artwork changed, was done in green and released at a later time and redone. So there actually are some card backs out there that have the blue Mer-Man on it. So if you guys are vintage guys and you like to collect the 8-backs, there is a variant out there that was the first release that actually did have the blue Mer-Man on the back of it. So that would be pretty cool to have. But again, what we ended up getting in the vintage toy was quite different. And here's what it was. We had Mer-Man. No painted gloves. So just the finned arm as it is. Green. Same thing over here. Had the monster arms. Just green. On the head, very simple paint job. Mostly green, then the orange around the mouth. Very menacing looking, sharp teeth, and very big eyes. So, very cool toy that we got. Just very different from the artwork that was featured on the back of the 8-back. Because if you look at the 8-back card, what you actually got was this. And so it was very confusing for some kids when they had stared at that 8-back and been looking the whole time and waiting on this particular figure to pick it up, and then you ended up getting the vintage version that we got. And so here was the head that we got with the vintage version. That's the actual head that would be on the toy. So that's Mer-Man's vintage head. Very cool that Classics included that. We don't have this in a blue version, unfortunately, but there never was a blue version, so there was no reason for Classics to do that. So there is your Mer-Man head. Now, one of the things that while I was looking at this was very interesting to find out, these to me, always look like ears. I don't know. I know he's fishy or whatever, but they always just kind of look like ears to me, and I don't know. Especially the way that the inside of them are sculpted. But what's very interesting, and I found out while I was researching for this, was that the insides of that, if you look at this particular figure right beside the Mark Taylor B-sheets, and you look at the direction the sculpts were going and the way that these inner sculpts go, they match up pretty closely. So it was very cool that, you know, they actually did try to get it pretty close. But because of the time that it was in the 80s and the fact that they couldn't get super intricate with this thing, we lost a lot of detail. There was a lot of detail that was lost from the original drawing. Now, the detail did make it into the prototype, which was very interesting. Tony Guerrero sculpted the prototype, and it's, I know you guys have seen it because it was just recently released, and it popped out on all the pages, and everybody was talking about it. He does look like an owl. I agree with that. But we saw it pop on the pages as that Lords of Power. Okay, the Lords of Power deal, if you look at that picture really closely, you'll see that the Mer-Man that is featured in the picture is the prototype, and it is almost absolutely exact to Mark Taylor's drawing. It's very cool, but it has a lot of really interesting detail on it that would be really tough to get from the figure into mass production. Also, if you look at Mer-Man's sword, and this was a very interesting part of the discovery as well, to me and to most, the sword has always been called the corn sword. A lot of people call it the corn sword because, in fact, the vintage version did look like corn. And what it was actually meant to be was it was a sawfish that has the great big long thing coming out of its mouth, and it has all the rows of teeth down the sides. And in Mark Taylor's actual concept drawing that we get to see, the B sheets, he has it marked that these are to be teeth. So that was originally a part of the design, that it was meant to be a sawtooth, a sawfish, if you will, and those were the teeth. Of course, again, with plastic issues in the 80s, in order for that to be mass produced, it was much easier to round those edges out so that they would be able to more easily be molded. So in that case, that's where we got the corn sword. So it was actually meant to be a sawfish, and Classics did a beautiful job of creating it and giving it the teeth and giving it the nice little cuts and edges that it needs to have to give it that cool look. Interesting thing about his armor, if you look closely, and of course he's always had this armor, a little bit different obviously in what we got with the vintage toy, but a lot more detail here in the Classics line. But we did have this sort of bow tie, very cool thing that 2000X did with this. In order for him to get his sword, it was actually this, and he pulled it out and the sword came out. So very cool thing there. But one of the cool details that was pointed out was that in Mark Taylor's original drawing, this was gold. There were a lot of gold highlights, but they couldn't do that because if they did that, it would be very hard again to reproduce. So in his drawing also, he had the yellow loincloth. He had the much more squiddish type things. But this is true to what the concept art is. And so in the concept art, we had the yellow loincloth, had the yellow shin guards, these regular feet. And so Classics went back, did a beautiful homage to that, and that's what we got with him. But not a lot of nice nods to the past here, and nods to the original with the coloration that the Four Horsemen chose to do that. So very cool. So there is our Mer-Man fella. Let's keep it going though. I got quite a few things to run through still. We've run it over. I'm going to keep going, but I'm going to keep it short, yo. Let's have a little pause for the cause and wet my whistle, and we'll get it underway. what else we got, you say? But was it? There was B sheets, and here we go. Let's see, Lords of Power. There's no C-Man. In the 82 release, and this is for you vintage folks. So this is for you vintage collectors that like to get all the little extra little pieces and the weird variants and all that good stuff. In the original 82 release of Mer-Man, he did feature a green belt. He was later reissued with it unpainted. The green belt, I would imagine, would be much more interesting to have. Of course, Classics gave the nod and gave the green belt, so there's what it is. So for any of you vintage folks who like to collect that kind of thing, that's for you. He originally was on the 8-back. He later was re-released with his Errol McCarthy artwork. So Errol McCarthy doing that beautiful underwater scene with Mer-Man. That's very cool. How did he come in the vintage boxes? So there's two pieces there. You've got the 8-back. You've also got that variant that had the Errol McCarthy artwork on it when it was re-released or reissued. He also came in a JCPenney gift set with the original Skeletor. So you had the original Skeletor and Mer-Man that was in a JCPenney gift set. Oh, Lord, to know what I know now and to go back to those days. JCPenney's ought to burnt you down. So we had that gift set. We also had another 3-pack that had Battle Armor Skeletor, Mer-Man, and Web Store. So that's also a very cool pack to look for if you guys like to collect those kind of things. Super late, but hi. What's up, Sugar Mama P? Appreciate you jumping in. What's up, Firestone? What's going on, my man? Vintage in the house. That's what it be. What's up, Kisa? What's going on, girl? Thanks for jumping in. In his earliest portrayals, he's always been associated with the Evil Warrior. So when we go back to the earliest portrayal of Mer-Man, he's associated with the Evil Warriors, always has been. However, in the 1982 dealer catalog by Mattel, it was listed that he bore allegiance to no one. There was no one that he bore allegiance to. He actually, it was explicitly stated that he was not an associate of neither He-Man nor Skeletor. He was just an additional figure. The only one that was actually listed as, so you had He-Man, and you had Tila was listed. Man-at-Arms is listed. Stratos is listed. And then you have, or let's see, was it Stratos? I can't quite remember. Don't hold me to that. But then on this side, you had Skeletor and Beastman. And other characters such as Mer-Man, and so it went on. There was no association there. Now, we were talking about Mark Taylor earlier. Another thing that was interesting, Mark Taylor did say that Mer-Man almost was completely scrapped. They almost threw him away entirely. That it was one that he had to fight to get, which I kind of talked about earlier. He wanted to have somebody for the air, somebody for the sea, somebody for the land. Thank you, Gina. Appreciate that. We try to, like I said last week, we try to keep it classy in here. And we watch our weight when we drink light beer. But that's, we got to watch covering things up and not promoting the wrong kind of things. But don't you worry. We got backups, y'all. Let's keep it going. We're going to finish her down. We'll take his last beer on to Pound Town. So, still got a little bit of information to get through, guys. I apologize. Again, so, like I said, he was almost completely scrapped together. Mark Taylor said they almost threw him away. You know, had to really fight to get this guy. So, Mer-Man, of course, we got him. Got him in a lot of different fashions. He's presented in a lot of different ways. Now, so far, we've only really talked about two different ways. There was Mark Taylor's B-Sheets. We had Tony Guerrero's sculpt, which was Lords of Power, and that's, I mean, it was almost exactly like the B-Sheets. We've got the cross-sell artwork, which was completely different, and that's what's featured on the 8-back. And then other than that, we only have a blue variant, which is kind of Alcala style. Alcala was based, his artwork there was based off of the B-Sheets, I believe. So it, you know, it's very close to what he was conceptualized to be. I think Alcala just put his spin on it, and it was absolutely beautiful. But for me, it's always been Alcala. That's the style that I like. That's the Mer-Man that I like, because in that particular portrayal, and you guys may be familiar with it just as the first 4 mini comics, Battle in the Clouds, but if you look at the first 2 minis, Mer-Man is a supporting character. He's in the background. He's really not doing that much. There is a spot or two where he's shooting an energy blast at He-Man with his blade, with the corn sword, and he's just blasting. But there is the third one, which is Battle in the Clouds, and in this one, Mer-Man is featured. He's on the cover. He's punching He-Man. So what we see right off the bat is that Mer-Man, in his earliest portrayal, was a very competent evil warrior. He and not necessarily an evil warrior, to the sense that he was just an evil entity that was out in the world that He-Man needed to steer clear of, because if there was a fight, it was a pretty decent fight with Mer-Man. So he wasn't somebody who was just a brush off. He was somebody who was just easily gotten by. So I really dig that early interpretation of that, because Alcala, didn't Bush go to war with this guy? Oh man, that's funny. Sometimes I need to be careful about reading these comments. That's too funny. Oh, that's too funny. Alright, so here's what it be. We'll take you over here and look at some of this Alcala you see. It's all good, Zertouche, man. That's... Shoot, dude, I had this bad boy down. We'll reveal that on them at another time. Drop that bomb, too, with rhyme. So, here you go. Oh, my word. He-Man is beating that ass. Look, so you got the Wind Raider, of course, over there. Flying by, we got the sled, there it goes. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. Mer-Man taking a hit, He-Man dropping a bomb. Got little Alfredo Alcala down there, ask your mom. On the tallest peak of the planet Eternia's mightiest mountain perched the watchful master of the universe, the winged one Stratos. Now, when we are first introduced to Mer-Man here, he is kind of lurking behind a wall and hiding. Now, if you'll look closely, Alcala drew him. That is exact to what we got. That's classics there, and that's pretty hot. So, there's Skeletor. I love this scene because Skeletor is actually using the blade with his magic above him, blasting. I always thought that was so cool as a child. To look at that and to imagine that he's using his power to hold that blade up and still blasting from it. Mer-Man didn't really trust him. He's lurking, dude. He's all slimy and squiddy and fishy, too. He's hiding in the background. But, you know, here's the first of what we see. It would appear that a coward is what he be. But over here, he's helping Skeletor. So he's dragging Skeletor out of the water after the fight. He was smart enough not to get involved. But when things get interesting, he is quick to capitalize. So what we often see is we see scenes where Mer-Man has been sent out to dispatch He-Man or to deal with He-Man, and he does a pretty good job in a couple of cases. So here he is, our hero pinned down, has his force field suit, or his, I think this is actually his power suit in this case, because he moves on. That's his strength garment. So in this particular one, it's his strength garment. But so very cool. In the early portrayal of Mer-Man, he was not a tool. He was very skilled and very accomplished, and was very able to take our central character, our champion, and knock him down. Now obviously they had to do the bad guy thing with it. You can't play fair. You're going to blast him and shoot him down out of the air, and then while he's down, you got to pick up a rock, because you know, it was Squiddish O'Clock. He was trying to have his thing. Now, Squiddish Rex, that was not his name then. He was just Mer-Man, almost Seaman. Glad we dodged that bullet. Somebody said that's an idea, and somebody said pull it. No, that was bad, man. Here's what it be. Let's keep on talking about Mer-Man. You see, I'm almost through it. Battle in the Clouds was very cool, and that was the take. That was Alcala's take on Mer-Man. Now, if you'll notice, again, very similar, or exact to what we got in Classics, which is why I love that too. And then Classics gives that awesome nod too, and you get the vintage toy head as well. So for you guys that are coming in late, that's it comes with him too. And then he's got his awesome sword too. Let's see. So he's featured also again in a little bit of box art. He's on Rudy Obrero's Attack Track art box artwork. He's on the Talon Fighter box artwork. He's on He-Man and Battle Cats box artwork. In Lady Bird, very cartoonish. Golden Book, illustrations by Fred Carrillo. Very close to the cross-cell artwork. Filmation, of course, he had his own style in Filmation. Done very differently in Filmation. And, oh man, it's kind of a very different style. And Super 7 has got those coming here in a little while. So if you guys have not seen that yet, the Classics line, of course, lives on. That's Club. This part is Club Grayskull, right? Collector's Choice. Is that Collector's Choice? No. Club Gray. Yeah, he's Club Grayskull. So Club Grayskull, you got Mer-Man coming too, and that is the Filmation line, dude. So I just call it the Filmation line. But so that Mer-Man is coming as well, and you're going to add him to your collection too. I'm going to get me one or two. Probably get a couple more for you that we'll give out here. I've got to catch up, guys. There's been some new stuff that's come out that we have not done. That's adding to the list of things that have not yet been fun. I've got another figure too that's coming. I'm pretty excited about that we're going to be able to do. But you know how we do it. I'd get this stuff for you. If I can get a piece of it for myself, that's fine. But it's more fun to give that stuff to you guys, and I don't care, man. We have a good time doing it, and who cares if you ship 33 boxes at one time? It's fun. We said some rhymes. Let's keep on trucking. So the Golden Book illustrations, that was Fred Carrillo. Filmation had their own style. And of course, in the mini comic, in Leech's mini comic, there was a whole other style. It was a bearded Mer-Man. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that. If you haven't, check that out too. That's in Leech's mini comic too. So who exactly is Mer-Man? What can he do? He can control sea life. His sword could project blasts of ice. Always wishing to be Skeletor's equal. However, in 82, in the DC comics, he does betray Skeletor and attempts to recover both halves of the power sword for himself. It does state in that since he and the Mer people, so here's where we hear the first mentioning of the Mer people. So it says that he and the Mer people are native to Eternia. So this is along my quest to figure out who is Mer-Man, where'd he come from, what's his background. You know, is he a nice guy down the street? Is he the friendly neighbor that comes over to borrow your tools? Does he sell fish oil supplements, you know, out of a back of a truck in Eternia because he's just trying to feed his mer babies? You never know. But I'll tell you what I found out though. Here is where you found out about the Mer people, and Skeletor felt, or they felt, that Skeletor was an interloper. He was on Eternia causing trouble. And them being native to Eternia, you know, they had the right to be in control. So, in this particular case, he was just trying to betray Skeletor and take the power for himself. And I think, honestly, in the way that he started being portrayed, he would have had the power to do that. He was a very able-bodied villain. Now, he did, as we saw in the very beginning, I think the name Squiddish Rex, even though it's kind of like skittish, but Squiddish. And I know that Squiddish is more pertaining to the water, more pertaining to the sea and squids and whatever. But skittish, Squiddish, or squeamish, I don't know. It seems to fit that particular portrayal of him in some ways. Just the idea that he is a little cowardly in the beginning, but he's more of an opportunist. And the idea being that, you know, Mer-Man will lay back and he'll wait and he'll do Skeletor's bidding until an opportunity presents itself. And, you know, it's not against him to be a little fishy and do something a little strange. So, you know, that's what it'd be. In Filmation, he was telepathic. He could manipulate the tides in the sea. He occasionally carried a trident that he could blast energy with. He had razor-sharp teeth and spoke with a very distinct gurgle. So, if you guys, obviously, you guys have seen Filmation, you know how Mer-Man talks. But so he had this little gurgle. I don't know. I think Scheimer did Scheimer do his voice? I think he did. In 83, Golden Books made him native to the swamps. So it was interesting that in the Golden Books they specified that he was native to the swamps. In 83, Ladybird, he ruled over the crab-like sea people who had mastered zero energy, which allowed him to freeze things. So, interestingly enough, here we have mention of the crab-like sea people that he was over. So, and they had created the zero energy thing. Maybe that tied into the fact that his sword could shoot these ice blasts. You know, it's from zero energy, guys. I mean, Jesus. When it hits 88 miles an hour, the flux capacitor goes off and get 221 gigawatts or whatever. They made ice. It's what Mer-Man did. It's what the Mer people did. The crab-like Mer people. It didn't say Mer people. It said sea people. Because we're about to move on here about Mer people. So, in 84, in the World Annuals, his power was tied to the tides, and therefore it was tied to the Eternian moons also. So, it was interesting. His Mer-Man's power was kind of dependent upon the Eternian moons. He had skip. 84, the audio plays. So, these were the German audio plays. This was very interesting to learn because I thought it was... At first, I was like, I don't know, what's a dark take on Mer-Man? What would be dark for Mer-Man? That he's running people through with the corn sword? I mean, that's not dark. That's kind of creepy. I don't know. Was he just a lot more vicious with his razor-sharp teeth? So as I got digging into that, interestingly enough, in the German audio plays, it was a much darker take on Mer-Man. What's up, Coronado? What's going on? Candyman Can, what's happening, my dude? Thanks for jumping in. Love Mer-Man's voice in the cartoon. I like it in 2000X, to be quite honest, Coronado. I'm going to get to that in just a second. But so it was a much darker take on Mer-Man with an intense rivalry between he and Skeletor. So this is in the German audio plays. He and Skeletor had a very intense rivalry, and it was a much darker take on Mer-Man. Because he had command over the Neptunians. So this was the Neptunians. Not the sea people, not the crab-like sea people, not the mer people, not the swamp people, because he was a swamp person there for a minute. Okay, no. He had command over the Neptunians, and he drowned his enemies whenever possible. Guys, that's intense. I mean, my goodness. He's drowning people whenever possible. Meaning that there are a lot of opportunities to drown people, and whenever he can. You're going underwater, man. It's definitely a dark take on Mer-Man. Okay, so moving on. It said also he can command seagulls. So, never mind the fact that he's over here drowning people. He can also command seagulls. That's kind of cool. He can swoop down, get the cracker. Okay, moving on. 86 UK Motu Mags. He was particularly subservient to Skeletor, and he was always vying for his attention. So, interestingly enough, there, he is actually subservient to Skelly and just wants his love. So, in 86 UK Motu Mags, there's that. Now, we go back to Germany. God, the Germans are serious. Alphabet. It's gotta be. No, I'm just kidding, man. But, you know, it's very serious. And so in the German Ihapa comics, there really wasn't a whole lot of information on this other than the fact that they referred to Mer-Man as a sea demon. And he didn't come out all the time, only sometimes against the other demons. My God, what are the Germans telling their kids over there? I just thought it was interesting, guys. Moving on. 2000X MYP. Mike Young Productions, man, that's what it be. Guys, now, I have yet to dig into NA, and I'm going to apologize. I did it as a kid. I went through it. I actually collected NA figures, and by NA, I mean New Adventures. I collected New Adventures, and I was sick about it while I was doing it, because it just wasn't He-Man. But then you had the cartoon man, and you know that was very cool. I remember going through it the first time, but I wanted to do it again, and I haven't done that yet. So, you know, I am safe enough to say that there is not a Mer-Man in sight in that. So I think we're okay with that. So I have not done any NA research as far as Mer-Man goes. So pretty much what it stops with for me is 2002 MYP. I love the way that a lot of the characters are portrayed, and the way that a lot of things are done, because it's very classy. It's a very nice nod to the history that we love and the things that have been established, and I like that. I like it when we stick to that. I like it when we build on things. We don't tear things down. We don't murder people. We don't have large monkeys tear people in half. Stop time traveling. We don't have a freaking flux capacitor. Second time. Back to the Future reference. This is a He-Man podcast, man. All I can say is oh my word. Anyway, so 2002, by the way. His home was the Sea of Rakash. He was... Now, interestingly, if you look at how each character is introduced in 2000X, it kind of gives you an idea, you know, kind of as they're breaking out each of the characters, kind of gives you the vibe for that character, you know, how they are, who they are. You know, Trapjaw, as he's walking into Snake Mountain, he's coming through the clouds, and shit's changing and moving. His jaw clamp. So it's letting you know that this is a bad mother coming into the room, right? Now, Mer-Man, little different. However, his introduction was interesting because although he was slimy and came up through the muck and, you know, it be what it be, he was instrumental in bringing down the Mystic Wall, you see. So now, had he not gotten the Cordite, they would have never been able to bring down the Mystic Wall. So really, the whole thing starts with Mer-Man after all. So there's a little nod to 2002. I appreciate y'all hanging out with me and us doing what we do. I'm going to have a pause for the calls. We're going to get it in. I'll see you all tomorrow night for Thirsty Thursday spin. I have hung way longer than I should have. I'll be in trouble tonight, but it's okay. Because we got Miller Lite. No, we got, I don't know. We're gonna have to cover that up and put some kind of Eternian lager cover on that. Big shout out to all the groups, to everybody who does and does what you do. Thanks for hanging with us. Y'all are the Waffle Mafia, bro. And this is the podcast, and I'm Aaron Ho. So thanks for hanging out with me, man, and thanks for doing what we do. There's old Dan old Rice with that 2002. You know that's the best. So let's have a little pause for the calls. We'll take it on out. Thanks for hanging out with me, man. You know what my battery's on now. Appreciate it, guys. Y'all have a good night. We'll see you tomorrow for Thirsty Thursday, all right?